Hello, this is Karmic Chaos, and today I will be reading Black Eyes Always Watch the Clock by silkybender. If you like this podfic, please go to the original creator and read some more of her stuff. She's really good at writing, and she does some really interesting stories. This is an Avatar The Last Airbender fanfiction, a Zuko / Sokka romance. Zuko, hurt comfort, Zuko angst, domestic violence, serious injuries, alternative universe, modern setting, an abusive relationship. So please, this has some heavy topics. If you need to sit out and look at some other things I'm going to do, please go do that. This is not something you should just be trying to sit through if it's something that you know will hurt you. Okay, let's start with the summary. Zuko nervously digs his key out of his pocket and starts fumbling at the mailbox. And he is fumbling. It's like his fingers aren't working properly and he can't get the key into the slot. The most mundane things, and yet Zuko can't remember the last time he felt so scared. Let me help you, Sokka says, because he can't say, "What is wrong with you?" Something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong. It's making Sokka crazy, not being able to pinpoint what it is. It's making him feel like he has to cut the right wires before a bomb goes off. Except the bomb is Zuko going back upstairs. Zuko pushes his hair behind his ear nervously, and Sokka follows the gesture, and he looks at Zuko's face. Zuko, who is always unfussed with and unkempt, is wearing makeup? It's pasty, slightly darker than the tone of his skin, and it trails across his right temple like a trail of falling stars. Your head, Sokka says. You hurt your head. Zuko looks confused, so Sokka tries again. Your head got hurt. And that is the end of the summary, so let's start on chapter 1. You think I'm unkind. By the time Katara knocks, he's been waiting about half the night. His car is in the shop, and he shouldn't be so resentful that his sister is too busy working miracles to take him to the Mexican place downtown, the one with the custom guac. But just because it's a first world problem doesn't mean he can't be pissed by the time she shows up. Almost 2 hours late. He plans to say something acidic about punctuality, but when he opens the door, Katara looks like she's seen a ghost. "Oh my god!" she says, dropping her purse on the floor. "What?" "It's him!" she hisses. "Down the hall? That's the guy I've been worrying about!" Sokka has to be honest. He has no idea who Katara is talking about. She calls him to unload about her day at the clinic, and most of the time he just lets it wash over him, making the appropriate noises from time to time. It isn't because he's calloused. It's the opposite, he tells himself. If he takes it all in, he'll just break his own heart too. The guy in room 312. God, I can't believe I didn't see it before. You're never over, Sokka points out helpfully. She wheels around on him. Because you never entertain. Because I have a shitty apartment. Yeah, and whose fault is that? It's not my fault. It's fundamentally shitty. Sokka pulls up short. Wait, why are we even arguing about this? If I lived in a different apartment, he wouldn't ever be my neighbor. Katara looks like she's about to cry. Do you know how many times he's come in looking half dead? She says limply. Busted lip, broken fingers, mouth full of blood, contusions all the way down his jaw. She reaches up, absently touching her face. When he moved in, Sokka says slowly, he already had the, He only saw a flash of the guy. White face, red burn. I didn't know how to find him, she says. I wanted to report it, but he didn't want that. I get it, but it's just hard. He goes by Ling when he comes in. I don't know his name, Sokka admits. Because, I think the name on the mailbox is the other guy's. He's barely seen Lee, but he has seen Zhao all the time. Bulky, roid ragey, with unflattering sideburns. It's easy to project onto Zhao now, in hindsight, all sorts of unflattering qualities. Before Katara came, Sokka probably just thought he was a middle management gym bro. Katara grabs his hand. Sokka, she says urgently, you should borrow Appa. He looks at her. I should do what now? If you have Appa, you have an excuse to be walking by his place a couple times a day. Why would I? Maybe he'll talk, or at least he'll feel like someone's there to notice. Sokka rakes his hands through his hair. You'd know I'd do anything for you, Katara. Good, she says. But I'm not stepping into this. I'm not asking you to break up a fight, Katara says. I'm asking you to walk Appa a few times a day. I know what you're asking. She almost starts crying. You never think about anyone except yourself. Katara! She grabs her purse off the floor. What about dinner? He asks. You can have dinner alone, Katara says, opening the door. With all the people you really care about. His first impression is that Lee looks faded. He's collecting the mail from the big subdivided mailbox downstairs, all rows and rows of tiny slots, and he's bundled up in a thick cardigan, his hair long and messy, pulled back in a low ponytail. His face is puffy, a little softness under the chin. Hey, neighbor, Sokka says awkwardly. The man jumps, clutching his letters to his chest. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I wanted to say, I wanted to say what I just said, I guess. Sokka rubs the back of his neck and reminds himself to look like this is going well. I'm Sokka. I live a couple doors down from you. Room 317. He sticks out his hand and Lee looks at it. Sorry, Sokka says again, for some reason. Before Sokka can pull back, Lee touches his hand tentatively, really barely even making contact at all, and they shake. His hand vanishes back inside the oversized cardigan. Zuko, Lee says. Sorry. Lee clears his throat. My name is Zuko. His voice is hoarse. Not early morning hoarse, almost damaged hoarse. Oh, Sokka says. Well, it's nice to meet you, Zuko. I hope, if you need anything, like normal neighbor stuff, nothing special. Not that I couldn't also do something special. God, is it possible for Sokka to just evaporate, maybe sublimate, go straight from solid into a vapor, floating off harmlessly into the sky? I mean, whatever. He finishes lamely. Zuko looks almost amused. His lips are quirked at one side. When he makes eye contact for a split second, his eyes are burning gold. It's like there's a flash of someone else inside him. And then it's gone. Good to know, he says, and then his eyes drop again. He locks up his mailbox and he heads back upstairs. Sokka, 7:38 p.m. How's Appa feel about a sleepover? Katara, 8:01 p.m. Yue would be proud. Sokka doesn't know what to say to that, so he doesn't say anything. People aren't the way you think they are. Appa is a huge, excitable, but gentle sheepdog who Sokka privately refers to as the living mop, or Moppy for short, sometimes Mappa. He used to refer to him as Mop non-privately, but Katara flicked him upside the head for it. Something about hurting Aang's feelings. We doing okay, bud? Sokka asks, setting down a bowl of kibble. Appa goes at it earnestly. He's a very earnest dog. He's perfect for Aang, really, Sokka thinks, remembering that he promised he'd call every night after Aang finishes with his last client, so he can FaceTime with Appa. Then Aang will go back to charting. He got his MSW in the spring, and although he wouldn't admit to being anything less than chuffed and picky, Sokka can tell he's been a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of paperwork he has to do, when he'd rather just help people. Would you like to go for a WALK after? Appa's tail flops. He tries taking Appa out at different times, hoping he might be able to figure out when Zuko goes to collect the mail. He's conscious, too, that if he does this badly, Zuko will feel stalked and doubly intimidated, especially if Katara is right about what it's like inside room 312. After a few days with no luck, finally he bumps into Zuko near dawn, when the grass is crisp with frost under his slippers and Appa is sniffing along the pavement. True to form, Appa goes trotting up to Zuko like old friends. "Whoa there, buddy," Sokka calls. There's a snatch of fear in Zuko's face, seeing the dog. He backs up and drops half the mail. "Appa, that's enough. Yep, yep." Appa's ears perk up, and he circles back to Sokka's feet, whining. Meanwhile, Sokka bends down to pick up the mail, which is wound up mostly in a patch of ice mud. "I'm sorry about that," he says, offering the dirty envelopes to Zuko. "And there goes your LL Bean catalog." Zuko snorts before he can catch himself. "It's okay," he says in a short rasp. "I wasn't worried about the catalog." "Yeah, you don't seem like an LL Bean person," Sokka says. "What do you mean?" Zuko is squatting down now, offering his fingers to Appa hesitantly. He's wearing the same big cardigan today, fuzzy where the weave has broken apart. His hair is falling out of a sloppy bun. It strikes Sokka as odd, the way Zuko dresses. He seems like such a careful person, careful in every aspect of his personality, but you wouldn't know it based on his appearance. Not that he really knows Zuko at all. When he says Zuko doesn't seem like an LL Bean person, he means Zuko doesn't seem like the person who owns anything new or made to last, but he doesn't say that. They're very, into duck boots and firewood tote bags. Sokka clears his throat. "You can come closer. He's a good boy." He scratches behind Appa's ears, and the dog goes brain dead, conked out on bliss. His pink tongue sprawls out of his mouth. "He's adorable," Zuko says. "What's his name?" "Papa." "Mappa." Sokka says that without thinking. "Fuck. Appa. I just call him that because he looks like an animated mop." Zuko covers his mouth for some reason. "He does," he says. Appa is cleaning his fingers now with enthusiasm. "Don't tell my sister I said that," Sokka says. "She'll kill me." For just a moment, Zuko goes very still, and it comes in the space of a second, and then it's gone. "So he's your sister's dog?" he asks casually. "Yeah, my sister and her boyfriend's. He's just staying with me for a while." He hesitates. "Is everything okay with?" "Oh, sorry. Yeah, she's fine. They're just, remodeling their kitchen," Sokka says, because that seems like something people do. "You're sweet for asking." Zuko covers his mouth again. "Well, I hope I'll see him again," he says. "He's, a good boy." "He is," Sokka agrees. "And you will." He trots upstairs, and then it's just Sokka and the mop on the grass, the sun pinking the concrete side of the apartment complex. It occurs to Sokka that Zuko covers his mouth when he smiles. Sokka, 4:32 p.m. Operation Appa was a success. Sokka, 4:33 p.m. The operation, if you will. Katara, 5:04 p.m. I don't know what I did to deserve you. Sokka, 5:06 p.m. I'm going to choose to interpret that in a positive light. In the end, it's dawn that works. Zuko checks the mail at dawn and at 4 p.m., usually just after the afternoon mail comes. Sokka wonders why he seems so anxious about the mail. Maybe there's nothing else he can do. Maybe he's bored. What if Zhao keeps him inside all day? They talk lightly at the mailbox. Sokka makes nervous jokes about how Appa has the smallest bladder in the world and keeps waking him up at ungodly hours. Again, if Aang were here, it would break his heart, these imaginary aspersions cast on his dog. Zuko always bends down and lets Appa snip his fingers, before reaching out and stroking his head. It's the thoughtful thing to do, a good with animals thing to do, not wanting to scare or force yourself on an innocent thing that has no choice. He likes you, Sokka says as the sheepdog happily snuffles at Zuko's hand. Zuko looks up at him, eyes bright for a moment, before he drops them. Are you sure? Yeah, of course. Sokka runs his hands down Appa's back. He loves you. He can only see one of Zuko's ears, poking through his hair, but the shell has gone candy pink. I've always thought that being good with animals is a test of character, Sokka says. You think so? Animals don't put up with assholes. Zuko hums like he's considering something, stroking Appa's ears. We never had a dog growing up, he finally says. Or any other animal. My father didn't like them. Or maybe they didn't like him, Sokka says bluntly before he catches himself. Zuko looks up at him, stills for a moment, and then nods. I don't think you're wrong, he says. But you have spent time with animals. Yes. Zuko doesn't elaborate. I'd like to have a cat, he says quietly. The way he says it is the way a little kid talks about being an astronaut someday. Like a fantasy, an impossible dream you indulge in while you're waiting for the bus to arrive, for school to let out, for fourth period to flicker to fifth. He says it like it could never happen. Allergies? Sokka asks lightly. Zuko is shaking his head. He pats Appa in the way you pat an animal when you're just about to wrap up, and then he gets to his feet. Just worried, he says. I worry about things happening to them. You shouldn't, Sokka says. You'd be a good cat dad. Zuko's eyes turn hard. You don't know me. And that is the end of Black Eyes Always Watch the Clock, Chapter 1. I am Karmic Chaos, and I hope you come back for Chapter 2. Bye!